Good evening, and first at 5, seeking justice for Oregon's Labor Day wildfires, with the nightmare of flames that devastated parts of the state in September 2020 now entering its next chapter, a class action lawsuit with homeowners alleging their local power company could and should have done more to protect their communities as dangerous winds blew in. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Plaintiffs are seeking $1.6 billion in the case against Pacific Corp. Evan Watson is in downtown Portland inside the courthouse where the civil trial got underway with opening statements. Evan?
Yes, Laurel, this big question here, is Pacific Power responsible for 4 of the destructive wildfires in 2020 that ranged from the Santiam Canyon out to Lincoln City? Now, the plaintiffs argue that Pacific Power failed to turn off the electricity despite multiple warnings, but the defense says it's not that simple, arguing that climate change or the spread from other wildfires, or even to the point of saying that the risk of turning off electricity to communities is pretty big. A Multnomah County jury is set to decide a landmark case over who's responsible for Oregon wildfires that sparked around Labor Day in 2020. The plaintiffs include 17 people who lost their homes or property in the fires, and more people could get paid as part of the class action lawsuit.
Pacific Corp chose not to protect Oregonians that night. It did not live up to its obligation. It didn't take any action to prevent a fire. And now, in this case, Pacific Corp should bear the consequences.
The case hinges on whether Pacific Power and its parent company, PacifiCorp, is liable for starting wildfires after choosing not to turn off the power on its lines and equipment in areas that were at serious risk for fire during the strong windstorm. The company's attorneys say it's more complicated than that.
The possibility of an ignition must be weighed against the dangers of de-energization when whole cities or towns can be blanketed in darkness just when they need power the most.
Both PGE and Consumers Power decided to turn off power in parts of their service areas around Labor Day, but Pacific Power attorneys say that was a new practice at the time and unique to certain areas and forecast data.
No Oregon utility had ever initiated a public safety power shutoff prior to Labor Day 2020, ever in the history of the state. It is truly a measure of last resort.
In opening arguments, the plaintiff's attorneys showed photos of fire damage and a clip of a woman calling in a fire in the Santiam Canyon area.
Gates, your firefighters at the school and Gates and the fire department in trouble. There's flames everywhere.
The plaintiffs are seeking $1.6 billion. Their attorneys said Pacific Power didn't use a system that turns off powers when a tree falls in a line.
It knows that it can prevent a fire. It's an important concept to power companies. No consideration. So its power lines continue to re-energize throughout the night when trees hit lines and spark fires. They re-energize. The power goes back on.
The defense pushed back, saying it's complex and climate change played a major role.
The truth is that no one can ever predict precisely where a fire is going to start. And that was especially true on Labor Day 2020.
Now, the jury is listening to the first witness in this trial give testimony about the weather events around Labor Day of 2020 to explain what conditions contributed to these fires sparking up all around the Oregon area. Now, this trial could be a long one. The judge said earlier today that he expects deliberations won't come until about 7 weeks from now. Guys.
We'll be watching. Thank you, Evan. Developing tonight, a pedestrian has life-threatening injuries after a car hit them this morning in Northeast Portland. The crash was on Northeast 122nd near Shaver Street. Police say the driver did stay and is cooperating with the investigation. No word yet on what led up to this.
Bullet holes and broken glass. That is what remains after a deadly shooting outside a furniture store along Southeast 82nd, where police shot and killed someone late last night. Blair Best is following this in the newsroom. Blair, what do we know about the victim and what led up to this?
David, the details we have at this point are limited, and police aren't saying who the victim is until the family is notified. Now, today we were out where it happened off a busy stretch of Southeast 82nd, where several nearby businesses were feeling the effects of the shooting. Now, it all started around 11 o'clock Monday night when Portland police and Clackamas County deputies were chasing a person believed to be involved in a Portland homicide. This video sent to us by a viewer shows the end of the chase. It was at this point that police say they shot and killed the suspect. It's unclear if the victim had a gun or shot at the officers. It happened right outside Lazy Boy Furniture. Bullets broke one of the store's front windows, and staff cleaned debris and detectives searched for bullets there early this morning. Now, nearby business owners were also concerned for their safety.
It's unfortunate. I mean, you just hear a lot of it. So, I mean, I was actually kind of surprised that an officer was involved.
I definitely think that's really scary that it happened so close to work.
Now, people are definitely rattled in that area, but they're not surprised to hear of another deadly shooting. The officers involved have been placed on paid administrative leave, and we're still waiting on more information on what led up to the shooting. David, Laurel.
Thank you, Blair. A major drug bust in Marion County. Police say they caught a driver near Salem with 51 pounds of meth and 31 pounds of fentanyl. They also found cocaine and heroin in the car. The suspect is 22-year-old Miguel Cruz Barrales. Police believe he was trafficking the drugs, and he's facing federal drug charges in this case. This next story is pretty wild. An investigation into two of the most prolific taggers in Portland led police to what they're calling a gun manufacturing workshop. As Mike Benner reports, officers discovered a multitude of weapons in the home of one of the alleged taggers.
Along this graffiti-filled fence bordering I-84, you'll find the names Thuja and Beer. According to Portland police, some of the most prolific taggers in all of the Rose City.
These two taggers, tagging as Beer and tagging as Thuja, were out there in almost a declared war on murals.
Officer Nathan Kirby Glatkowski started investigating the two last summer. He eventually identified Thuja as 26-year-old Shalale Rostami of Beaverton and Beer as Jacob Ramos of Portland.
I almost anticipated that this would be more of a younger crime in the hands of a teenager or something like that, but Ramos is 43.
And living in this home near Southeast 97th and Duke, police raided the house earlier this month.
Saw the police just kind of roll up there and serve the warrant. There wasn't really any loud noise or anything like that, nothing crazy.
Crazy best describes what was found inside Ramos's home. In addition to plenty of tagging evidence, authorities say they discovered more than a dozen guns and what are called ghost guns.
You can buy these components off the shelf. Once you modify them and make all of these changes to them, they become functioning firearms, and that's what we saw there.
We went to Ramos's home for an explanation, but nobody came to the door to talk. Officer Kirby Glatkowski, on the other hand, is talking. He says confiscating the weapons is a huge win for a police bureau dealing with a lot of gun violence. He says busting two alleged graffiti artists isn't bad either, because just maybe this will deter others from committing acts of vandalism around the city.
Nobody wants the police to show up on their doorstep and raid their house with a search warrant. Nobody wants dozens of felony counts brought against them.
And speaking of that, Jacob Ramos is facing more than 100 charges in the wake of this investigation, and about half of those are felonies. As for Shalale Rostami, she is facing about 30 misdemeanor charges after police raided her Beaverton home and collected more than 1,000 pieces of evidence. Reporting in Portland, I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
A quick reminder, tonight is the deadline in Oregon to register for next month's special election. It's coming up May 16th. Voter pamphlets are already in the mail. The special election features school board races and some local levies. If you haven't registered to vote yet or you need to update your information, head to oregonvotes.gov/register. Meanwhile, voters in parts of Clark County are casting their ballots today on two replacement levies, one for the Washougal School District, the other for the Woodland School District. At this point, you can only register to vote in person. Keep in mind, all ballots have to be postmarked with today's date or dropped off at a ballot box by 8.
Today, Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed a trio of new gun laws, including one that bans further sale and manufacturing of assault weapons. It covers more than 30 kinds of guns. The bill does not affect people who already own assault weapons. Supporters say it will help reduce mass shootings. As the bill was signed, the Second Amendment Foundation filed a lawsuit challenging the legality of the new law.
There is no reason on this green earth that anybody needs a weapon of war that is designed for only one purpose, and that is to shoot and kill and maim mass numbers of people in seconds.
As for the other two laws, another establishes a 10-day waiting period for all firearms, and all new gun owners must take a safety training course. Gun manufacturers can now also face civil lawsuits if their practices are determined to have contributed to a shooting.
In Oregon, lawmakers have passed a bill to allow the expanded use of photo radar cameras to crack down on speeding. The bill authorizes all Oregon cities to use the cameras, removes restrictions on how many hours a day they can operate in one location, and gives local governments greater control over speed limits. The bill now heads to the governor's desk.
Today, President Biden officially announced he is running for re-election. In a 3-minute video titled Freedom, he previewed top campaign issues, including the January 6th attack on the Capitol and battles over abortion rights. He also spoke today to union members at a presidential event.
Folks, we made a lot of progress because of all of you, but there's more to do.
However, there is voter concern over the president's age. If re-elected, he would be 82 when he starts his second term.